Today we're going to break down a really provocative idea that's shaking up the conversation about global politics. It's coming from a former world leader, no less, the UK's former Prime Minister Liz Truss. She's making the case that the entire global system, starting with the UN, needs to be completely rethought.
And she doesn't pull any punches. This quote right here gets straight to the heart of it. It's a direct appeal for a potential US president to literally start taking the United Nations apart. I mean, that's a pretty wild thing for any former head of government to say.
So yeah, this isn't just a simple critique. This is a call to dismantle the whole thing. So what's the logic here? What leads to such a radical idea? Let's get into it.
And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? What's her diagnosis that leads to such a drastic prescription? Well, according to Truss, it all comes down to this massive disconnect between the world our leaders think exists and the world we're actually living in.
She argues that a lot of Western leaders are basically stuck in the past, operating in what she calls the old world, a world built on rules and institutions that she claims just aren't real anymore.
What's so interesting here is how clearly this lays out her entire worldview. On one side, you've got the ideal, right? The international rules-based order that we hear about all the time. But on the other side is her reality, a system that's totally broken, defunct, and, as she sees it, has been infiltrated by adversaries like China.
And she doesn't just stick to vague ideas. She names names. The UN, she says, does not work anymore. The World Trade Organization? Defunct. She basically paints his picture of European leaders who are in denial and have weakened themselves, while rivals like Russia and China are just playing by a completely different set of rules, making the whole system pretty pointless.
Now, to prove this isn't just some abstract theory, Truss brings up a very specific, real-world example that she thinks perfectly shows how the system has failed. And that's the whole controversy surrounding the Chagos Islands.
So this is the puzzle she lays out for everyone. The Chagos Islands are home to a super important critical military base that the UK and the US share. So her question is, why on earth is the British government getting ready to just give it away?
And here's her step-by-step breakdown of what she sees as a disaster. First, a court connected to the UN rules against the UK's claim to the islands. Then, instead of fighting back, she says the UK government, full of people who believe in international law above all else, just gave in. They capitulated. And the result? A massive strategic loss for both the UK and the US.
And you know what? Her view got a huge echo from a very familiar voice. Donald Trump went public and slammed the decision, framing it in almost the exact same way she does, as this totally baffling giveaway of a vital military base for, quote, no reason whatsoever. This alignment is a really key part of her argument.
For Liz Truss, this one case study points to a much, much bigger problem. The Chagos Islands situation isn't just one bad call. For her, it's proof that the entire system of international law is a total sham.
The key word here is hypocrisy. She believes the whole system is hypocritical because it seems like the rules only apply to some countries, while other more powerful countries can just ignore them with zero consequences.
This table really just sums up her frustration perfectly. You've got countries like the UK who follow the rules, which, in her words, makes them complete mugs. But then you've got global powers like China and Russia who just don't play by the same rules at all. It creates, in her view, a totally unfair playing field.
And that brings us to her final verdict, said as plainly as you possibly can. From her perspective, the system isn't just a little flawed or in need of some tweaks, it's a sham, and it's been broken for a long, long time.
Okay, so if the whole system is a sham, then what's the plan? What's the alternative? This is where we get into her call to action and what she thinks needs to happen now.
To really get her solution, you first have to understand who she thinks the problem is. She talks about the beholden leader. This is her term for a politician who, as she sees it, is more loyal to these international groups and their rules than they are to the actual people of their own country.
So her prescription is, well, it's pretty direct and confrontational. She wants leaders to get out there and publicly call out the system's flaws. She thinks countries like the UK should just flat out refuse to follow rulings they think are unfair. And she's calling for a major effort to expose what she claims is widespread Chinese influence inside these global organizations. So when you boil it all down, her entire pretty complex argument really comes down to one central idea, that the world order built after World War II is broken beyond repair. It doesn't need reform, it needs to be torn down and completely rethought from the ground up.
And that really leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? Whether you agree with her or not, it forces you to think about it. If the institutions that have shaped global politics for almost 80 years really are failing, what comes next?
What does the future of countries working together even look like?